We're on the march. The Empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Used since before the days of the Roman Empire to support the body's natural systems and enhance overall health. Introducing the new InfoWarsLife.com oil of oregano formulation, a highly advanced nutraceutical form of this key herb that has been traditionally used by civilizations for thousands of years to promote health. We have now procured the most high quality and potent forms of oregano oil on the market, sourced from top leading manufacturers to ensure a concentrated level of bioactive ingredients. Extracted directly from the wild herb and sealed in easy-to-use capsules, you will no longer need to endure the burning of liquid oregano on the tongue. Wild crafted from the Mediterranean oregano species that experts agree is one of the most powerful and most challenging to acquire. This winter season, it's more important than ever to secure this true form of oil of oregano. Now available in our limited first run at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139. The month of February is all about Valentine's Day. Big heart-shaped boxes filled with delicious candy. What if we, the Patriots, hijacked Valentine's Day and instead made it about human liberty and individual empowerment? I'm all about human potential. I'm all about the individual being empowered. The establishment is the opposite. That's why they spike our water with fluoride and GMO, estrogen mimickers, and the rest of the garbage. InfoWars is striking back in the month of February with Human Empowerment Month. How we can come together and win the human race. And to celebrate the kickoff of Human Empowerment Month, we're slashing prices on InfoWarsLife.com products like Super Male and Super Female Vitality. The sale is only running for the month, 20% off, and there's a lot of other powerful specials at InfoWarsLife.com. InfoWarsLife.com, celebrating human potential in the month of February. Visit InfoWarsLife.com to find this special and many others in the month of February. Again, InfoWarsLife.com or 888-253-3139.
What disaster is so powerful, it unleashes a chain of mass pandemics, economic meltdowns, and violent food riots, all at the same time? NASA has already set the countdown timer, and right now the 21st century apocalypse is less than 13 months away. Former CIA Director James Woolsey says 2/3 of U.S. population could perish. In a matter of seconds, the world as we know it will cease to exist. The world's economy will be wiped out. Mass riots will follow. Ancient diseases will reemerge. How will you shield yourself and your loved ones from this upcoming apocalypse? Go to darkestdays.info to find out proven methods of protecting yourself, your loved ones, and even your entire community when this worst-case scenario unravels. That's darkestdays.info. darkestdays.info. Go there before this life-saving information becomes unavailable to the large public. Go to darkestdays.info now.
Hitler took the guns. Stalin took the guns. Mao took the guns. Fidel Castro took the guns. Hugo Chavez took the guns. And I'm here to tell you, 1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms. Doesn't matter how many lemmings you get out there on the street begging for them to have their guns taken. We will not relinquish them. Do you understand?
Rallying patriots worldwide in defense of human liberty. It's Alex Jones.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, your host today on this Monday, February 16th, 2015. Alex will be joining us in the next hour, along with Joyce Riley, host of the Power Hour that you can also hear here on GCN. I was talking just before the break about a fight going on between some plastics manufacturers and what that tells us about the scientific process. But before I get onto that again, just want to tell you that this hour is brought to you by the products that we sell at InfoWarsLife.com. Of course, that's what helps to fund this operation, a key part of funding this operation. We have some specials this month. We have a February special that is 20% off of Super Male and Super Female Vitality. And of course, those are products specifically designed to assist the body in regulating proper hormone balance to create superior vitality, males and females. It's a formula that is completely free of GMOs, harmful additives, gluten, and is made in the USA. Again, February special, 20% off of Super Male or Super Female Vitality. We also have another special Buy 2 Survival Shield X2 and get one Ancient Defense free. That's our new flagship product there. Ancient Defense has just come out. You can get one of those for free when you buy 2 Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine. Now, just before the break, we were talking about this story that I saw. It's a transcript I have here from NPR, talking about the fight between the people who make BPA and the people who make a BPA-free plastic, Triton. And of course, as they point out, we all know that BPA taken in large doses causes hormone-related health problems in animals. Of course, the large doses that we get means that virtually all plastics that they put drinks as well as food lining the cans of canned foods in many cases with BPA plastics, of course, we are getting that in large doses. And it's not just animals that have problems with it. It has problems for humans because we are animals in that respect as well. Now, they point out that these two companies were going back and forth, making claims and counterclaims. They get into an argument. They get into a lawsuit about this. They've all got their own experts and studies backing their positions. They argue, they say, at length about which tests should be used to establish whether a product had estrogenic activity. In other words, both of these plastics, apparently under certain circumstances, create estrogen problems, creating problems for males, lowering the fertility rate, doing many other things, as Alex has talked about many times, the effects of these plastics. But here's the key thing. This is what they came down to the bottom line. They said, the test results that we have, that doesn't limit our research in a scientific context. He says, our companies are getting their message out by publishing scientific papers about estrogenic plastics that specifically mention each other's products. He says the tactic seems to be working. I think people are recognizing that it's not the courts that determine scientific questions. It's not the government of California. It's not LA Times. It's not Chris Cuomo. Its truth is not determined by Democratic vote. It's not determined by majority opinion. Most of the time, the scientific consensus about most things has been wrong. Louis Pasteur had to fight against the scientific consensus to get people to understand the germ theory. Most of the time, the scientific consensus is wrong. You advance science by questioning conventional wisdom. And here's some questions for the people who put out mandatory vaccines. And as I point out, we have an article, an interview. It's up on the YouTube channel, an interview that I had with Jane Orient, Dr. Jane Orient, MD. She's with the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons. She's the executive director. And I thought they had some very good questions that they asked the CDC in a FOIA request 3 years ago now. They asked for things like, describe the potential conflicts of interest that you may have in recommending vaccines. This is to the CDC. Tell us what tests you've done to determine the duration of the protection of vaccines. Tell us the safety and the efficacy testing of the influenza vaccine. Give us documents that describe the long-term safety studies of children and adults who have received 5 or more annual doses of the flu vaccine. Give us tests that you've conducted for possible viral or bacterial contaminants in vaccines. We'd like to know what safety testing you've done for thimerosal, that's mercury, in children and adults. We'd like to know any testing that you've done of thimerosal or other vaccine components for potential adjuvant effects, that's irritant effects of the immune system. We'd like to know any investigations that you've had for the potential of any components with adjuvant-like effect for inducing allergies to vaccine components, which the recipient is coincidentally exposed to, like peanuts or pollen. Would like to know what the absentee rates in school children and healthcare workers are who have or have not received the flu vaccine, including time off for adverse reactions to the flu vaccine. Would like to know if you've compared the effectiveness of immunization of personnel versus other methods of protecting patients against acquiring influenza in-house. For example, using UV lights to sanitize the air, which we saw them doing with the Ebola outbreak. They have a UV machine that can come in and sanitize an entire room without people being in there. So these are questions that need to be asked. Where are the studies? Show me the studies. Oh, that's right. You haven't done the studies? Or you don't want to show me the studies that you've done? Then don't ask me to trust the CDC or the pharmaceutical industry. I certainly understand what vaccines are about. I understand the process of passive immunity. We talked about that when Ebola was an outbreak. The idea that you would use the antibodies that somebody who survived the disease had produced, human antibodies, and you would transfer those human antibodies to someone else with a convalescent serum. I understand that. I understand active immunity, where you give somebody a weakened or dead version of the disease and hope that their body produces its own antibodies to deal with that. That's active immunity. I understand the principle of both of those things, but you understand that they then turn around and change that. We talked about that with Ebola. We said, look, people who are recovering from this, in almost all of the cases that we've seen here in the West, they've all had this convalescent serum, virtually every single patient. And they were passing this on, the doctors and nurses, because they had seen this work in the country. But then what the media wanted to produce was the pharmaceutical version of this, the artificial version of this, where they would inject monkeys with Ebola, and they would get monkey antibodies, and then they would genetically modify those monkey antibodies to presumably work better with humans. Then they would take those genetically modified monkey antibodies and they would put them in a genetically modified tobacco plant and grow them. Then they would take this Frankenstein substance and inject it into you, talking about how, hey, if this Ebola outbreak gets too far along, we're not going to be able to take the time to do the kind of testing that we'd like to do. We're just going to have to start injecting people with this. That's the difference, where they go from transferring convalescent serum from one person to the other to a monkey-generated antibody that they grow in a genetically modified tobacco plant, because they can make money from that. They can't make that much money just doing blood transfusions, but they can make a lot of money doing ZMapp and things like that. So that's what we're looking at. That's what you need to have if you're going to have informed consent. Yeah, we have this case that came out last week, and it was up on Infowars.com. Kit Daniels had this story about the angry mom, and of course the way that it was hyped in the media and the Daily Mail, saying her son, her 15-day-old son's life hangs in the balance from measles because of, you know, anti-vaccine people. Well, the reality is that her son didn't even have measles. And I've been following this, and I'm sure that if he did come down with measles, there's only 1 or 2 days left in the watching period. I'm sure that if Jennifer Hibben White's 15-day-old son had come down with measles, I'm sure they would be telling this to everybody. But here's the catch right here. When it was reported in the Canadian television report, they pointed out that the person who was in the waiting room, see, she took her child to a hospital waiting room at 15 days old. That's perhaps the Canadian socialist healthcare system. I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't take my 15-day-old child into an emergency room to wait for a routine checkup. Nevertheless, she did. And there was somebody who was there who was sick, as you would expect in an emergency waiting room, hospital waiting room. This person who had measles was there a couple of hours before she was and did have measles. Guess what? It wasn't an unvaccinated person. No, it was a 30-year-old man who had been vaccinated. So she's angry at the unvaccinated people. She brings up amazing straw man arguments. Let's run the report from that Canadian TV news report. They have some of her quotes, and we're going to stop this as we go through it and comment on some of these quotes. Run that tape, guys.
Now to a mother outraged at parents who do not vaccinate their children. She took to social media, and her emotionally charged post is gaining steam. You see, her newborn son may have been exposed to measles late last month, and she does not yet know if he has the virus. Here's CTV's Janice Golding.
Measles is a potentially deadly disease, and Jennifer Hibben White has learned her newborn son Griffin may have been exposed at a Markham doctor's office on January 27th. She writes, "I'm angry as hell." The Pickering mom of two doesn't blame the person who sought medical help, but on Facebook she posted, "If you have chosen to not vaccinate yourself or your child, I blame you. I blame you. You have stood on the shoulders of our collective protection for too long. From that high height, we have
Okay, let's hold that right there. Do you catch that? Our collective protection. You stood on the shoulders of our collective protection. I blame you if you're not vaccinated. Yet, the person that was in the emergency room was a vaccinated person. That's not supposed to happen. And according to their theory, somebody who gets measles as a vaccinated person isn't supposed to be able to pass that on. Yet we've seen that happen time and again. I want to read one more quote, and then we've got Alex Jones has called in on the phone. She said, basically, you have stood on our collective shoulders. We are concerned world citizens, and we're not going to allow this anymore. In other words, we're just going to force you. Bringing up things like you think you can protect your kids by